screen, but also can be a very intimate story. Can you elaborate on this, please?
Yes, thank you. I'm glad you felt that way about the film, because that was the very reason that I wanted to make the movie. I thought that it's an ambitious story, but I thought modern audiences deserve ambitious movies from us. And yes, I thought it could work as a big screen entertainment that you needed to go to the cinema to see and feel and hear, and the story deserves that. But it also offers some very modern themes that are relatable to people all over the world in ways that surprised me when I read the script. Also, great acting opportunity for Chris Hemsworth and the rest of the cast. Human drama about relationships and heart and survival. So this combination of things I thought was unique and very exciting for me as a storyteller, and I'm eager to be sharing it with audiences.
Great. Next question is to Will. Will, locations, logistics can be very daunting in a story like this one. What were the major challenges in this movie?
Well, I mean, one of the big challenges is finding a place where you can accommodate with the water tank. So there's not many water tanks around the world. London, also has advantageous tax credits that make it an ideal place to shoot, and they have great crews and studios already in place. So finding a place like London, and then the Canary Islands, where we shot a lot of stuff on the open seas, was also a place that had some beneficial tax credits too. So it was the perfect sort of storm, and we were able to get the water tank and a lot of the stages in London, and get the open seas with the look and feel that fit with the story in the Canaries.
Great. And Chris, tell us about that famous diet, 500, 600 calories per day. How do you prepare physically for this movie?
We started on a normal 3,000 calorie diet, and basically dwindled it down to about 500 to 600 calories a day by the end of the shoot. And it was made for a pretty moody existence and a pretty uncomfortable shoot for most of us. But we were all in it together, and we were training every day, and there was a great sense of camaraderie and a bond that was formed between us, which was, I think, essential for what we wanted to put on screen. And we had Ron, the captain of the ship, leading us, and who better to launch us in the battle than him, and we were all prepared to follow, and it was a lot of fun.
Great. Bueno amigos, ahora sí hay chance de preguntas y respuestas. Tenemos en primer lugar al señor Eliud Arce de Televisa Espectáculos. ¿Cómo estás, Eliud? ¿Tiene el micrófono aquí el compañero? Si no, viene para acá.
Chris, thinking about Moby Dick as the essence of the ocean, of the sea, I wonder what is the Chris Hemsworth essence? What it lives inside of you as a human being and as an actor?
Interesting question. I've always had a great sense of ambition and real need or want to do things in my life that challenge me, and things that push me out of my comfort zone, but always very sort of self-motivated, I guess, and looking to explore, and I always had a need to see new things and have new experiences, and I think that's what drove me into acting. It was an opportunity to travel the world and inhabit all sorts of different characters and meet many, many different people from many different walks of life. I'm not really sure where that came from. I think probably my parents helped provide an environment where I had the confidence to want to chase this dream. I'm glad I did. I couldn't be happier with it.
Perfecto. La compañera Luisa Carrandi del grupo Hacer. Luisa está de este lado. Ahí ya.
Hi, I have a question for Chris and for Juan. Chris, it's the second time you work with Ron Howard, first in Rush and now in the Heart of the Sea. What do you tell us about how it was working with Ron for the second time, and do you prefer making films about true stories, or do you prefer fiction?
You know, I love all genres and different characters, and you know, as an audience member myself, but as an actor, I've got to say there was something very special about Rush and In the Heart of the Sea, being a part of true stories and characters that existed, and we felt a sense of responsibility to do that story and that character justice. There's that almost extra bit of motivation. So, yeah, I'd probably say doing true events, you know, has also taught me more as an actor and forced me to take bigger risks and work harder. Working with Ron, what I loved from the first second I met him and worked with him on Rush was he created an environment to do that and encourage that, and was constantly pushing the envelope and pushing all of us into places we didn't think we could go or thought we wanted to go, and experimenting and so on. And it was nice to come back in this film and pick up where we left off and not have to get to know one another and form that relationship. We could just get straight down to work and with the same sort of enthusiasm and passion for the story. So it was wonderful to have a second opportunity to work with him.
Thank you. And Ron, what's the importance of music in your movies, like scores and original songs?
Well, music is very often a character in a movie, and in a movie that is as rich and interesting as this, with the big adventure elements, the myth of the whale, this giant whale. And I wanted a cinematic experience because the whale, is almost, because of that mythology, but the reality being that the whale was real. Well, that demands, a lot of thought and care in terms of the way it's shot, the way it's edited, the way it's designed, but finally, also, what is the music telling us? The subconscious language that we all share. Roque Baños did a fantastic job of, I think, capturing both the adventure and also the complexities and the emotion of the journey. And I just want to add one more thing about working with Chris again, which was that because Chris brought me this project, and I had seen in Rush, in working with him, that he was challenging that character, asking very creative, interesting questions, digging deeper for more texture, more complexity. A very hardworking and intelligent actor. I felt that that this character, which would be equally challenging, if not more so, would be in great hands. And in a movie that was going to be so difficult with the water and the stunts and the fire and the whale and all of the action, and the emotion, to have somebody with Chris's character in the lead was very important to a director. So it was wonderful for me to get another chance to work with Chris.
Perfecto. El señor Eleazar Ramos de Notimex, compañero. Se encuentra de este lado.
Buenas tardes. Mi pregunta es para el señor Ron. Desde Apolo 13 hemos visto el uso inteligente de la tecnología, el avance, y ahora que tuvimos la oportunidad de ver Corazón del Mar la semana pasada, vemos también el interesante uso de la tecnología. Mi pregunta es, ¿hacia dónde va el cine y hacia dónde va su cine?
Well, thank you for those kind words. Having been an actor myself, every story is centered around the characters first and what the characters are going through. And what I'm interested in doing with the camera, with the compositions, the cinema of it, is trying to create a connection for audiences to experience something of what the characters are experiencing and go on that adventure, go on that drama, or if it's a comedy, feel that humor. But technology is a tremendous tool because it more and more realistically can allow you to transport audiences. And when I go to the movies, that's my very favorite thing, is to be swept up and taken away. That's why I like to go, that's why I like the big screens, the great sound. And technology is advancing to the point where a movie like this is possible. Because even 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, if we made this movie, you would have had to suspend your disbelief as an audience member to believe that they were facing this whale and facing this force of nature. But I wouldn't have taken on the challenge had I not seen Life of Pi and the first reboot of the Planet of the Apes movie, and seen that the technology was there to allow me to give the audience not a figure, not a fantasy character, but a real character, as that whale was. And to me, that's what's so surprising about this story, is that, you know, this confrontation at sea really happened and changed these people's lives.
Will, would you like to add something to that? Do you think it was the right moment to make this film concerning technology and digital effects?
Without doubt, and I think it's also just a story that needed to be told. I mean, when you look and see what these guys did for a living, it was pretty incredible under brutal conditions. I'd never seen anything like it. And although I'd always, had known that, whales had been hunted at one time for their oil, you didn't understand what an industry this was and what people did to do this. And we learned so much, because we were depleting. There's great messages in this movie about all that was wrong with it too. But it was just, it's an incredible story. And it's a great time, not just with the technology, just but with where we are with the planet today too.
And just to follow up on the reporter's question, I think that that entertainment in general is becoming so exciting. There are so many formats, whether it's digital, whether it's great work on television, and of course still the cinema and live theater as well, and live entertainment. So I think it's challenging storytellers to use technology to create experiences for audiences, not just a movie on a screen, but something that they'll go, it's special, and they'll remember that they saw that movie in that environment and felt the things that they feel.
La compañera Daniela Vidal de Luis G. y G. Compañera.
Gracias, buenas tardes. Bueno, mi pregunta es dirigida a Ron y bueno, es en el proceso de investigación de cuando decidiste hacer esta película, ¿cuál fue el dato más inverosímil pero útil que adoptaste y adaptaste dentro del film?
Well, it was fascinating when we began developing what our whale was going to be. And of course there are lots of reference photos and videos and films to look at. So so we knew what a large sperm whale looked like, but the behavior was so important. So we did a number of things. We first looked at what the survivors of the Essex had actually written about the attack, which was very specific and intense and shocking. I also looked at the way Herman Melville wrote about the whale in Moby Dick. Now this story was inspired, Moby Dick was inspired by this event, but Herman Melville had also been a whaler on several voyages, and he had witnessed whales and their behavior. So what he wrote was very authentic. And then we started to design the scenes, and this is where the surprise comes. We took all of our ideas and storyboards and animations, and we got a group of marine biology, marine mammal specialists to come in and look at what we were doing, because I didn't want it to be fake. I didn't want it to be some kind of movie monster. I wanted it to be what it was, a remarkable, real living, breathing character and force of nature. Well, they told us that our ideas were very good, very accurate, but they weren't intense and ferocious enough. So, as a director, you can imagine my eyes lit up. Somebody from who really knows is telling us we can push the intensity of the movie even further. That was the biggest surprise that came out of the research.
Perfecto. Viene la compañera Berenice Villatoro de Televisa.com.
Hola, bienvenidos. Pues mi pregunta es básicamente sobre el libro. Si, obviamente yo sé que nada está basado en él, pero si alguna vez tuvo impacto en sus vidas, y si nos pueden contar cuál fue la escena como más difícil de realizar en la producción. Gracias.
¿Qué libro? ¿Moby Dick o el libro que
Moby
está
Dick,
basado?
Moby Dick,
Dick.
perdón, sí,
She's
sí,
talking
sí.
about Moby Dick, the impact of the novel on yourself. And if you have a favorite scene.
I read Moby Dick in school, and I actually enjoyed it. It's long, it's involved, but it was one of those assignments that I did enjoy, and I also really always remembered John Huston's movie starring Gregory Peck, which is today technically it doesn't seem very realistic, but he was a great director, and that was powerful storytelling. But it didn't have an enduring effect on me. The ocean always has, and the cumulative collection of stories about the ocean, whether whether it's Hemingway or Joseph Conrad, certain movies, documentaries. I'm a little bit afraid of the ocean. I have worked in the water in the 80s in the movie Splash and Cocoon, underwater, on the water, and I sort of got through my phobia by having to work there. So I'm not terrified of it, but I never go there for recreation. It's mysterious, it's foreboding, I sense danger and vulnerability, and I think that's probably the reason why I've always wanted to make a movie that was entirely set at sea, which when Chris and Will brought me this project, it answered that dream that I'd had of trying to tell a great original story set in that environment.
Great. Guys, do you like to add something about the influence of the novel on yourself? And if you have a favorite scene in the whole movie?
My favourite scene was probably the turning point when when Owen Chase began to realise that this creature that he has seen as his enemy for so long is not, and it's just an equal being trying to survive, and that's exactly what he is trying to do and needs to do. And at that point realises his relationship to the environment, to the planet, and I think has some remorse about it, or understands the brutality of it in the whaling industry, but just thinks, what's the point? What's led me to this point, and why? And now I just want to get back and see my family. And that's something that, having family myself and kids was an instant, struck a chord with me. It's something I could relate to and always had a large impact on me.
Will?
Yeah, I think my favorite scene would have to be the same when Chris's character looks in the eye of this animal and connects with him. It's a beautiful moment, and you gotta love the scene where Tom Holland is forced down into the whale's head, because that's pretty gruesome, but it's a fun scene in a good way.
Gruesome and entirely authentic. I didn't answer that part of the question, but I think for me as a director, the most complex scene was the attack of the whale on the ship, and then realizing that they had to abandon ship, and with this emotion and urgency, they had to face the fear of an ocean where that whale existed and where they were 800 miles past the Galapagos and alone. And from a cinematic standpoint, it's one of the most challenging sequences that I've ever done, along with the launch sequence in Apollo 13, and a couple of other sequences like that. Maybe the final Fuji race in Rush, similarly challenging.
Great. La compañera Susana Villar de Actitud Femina. Susana. Susana la una.
Emotionally, what was the hardest scene you had to film?
Well, for me as a director, it wasn't so much that I knew that the actors were paying a tremendous emotional price in some of the scenes, the one Chris is talking about. There are a couple of other scenes where they're actually drawing straws to determine, if there's going to be any sacrifice among the men in their struggle to survive. Emotional scenes where one of the shipmates dies. So there's 3 or 4 scenes where the emotions are so raw, and at that point, of course, the actors had been starving themselves in this 500-calorie diet. They had gone through a lot in terms of shooting the movie, and they really did care about each other. And physically, we were in the real ocean, in these small boats, filming in a very intimate, very contemporary kind of a way. And I knew that what they were giving was, from an acting standpoint, it was sort of as remarkable as anything that I've ever seen, because of everything they've been through physically, and now, what they were revealing and how raw the emotions were in those scenes.
Perfecto. El compañero Iván Castañeda de Milenio.
Acá estoy. Hola. En la película, Chris, tu personaje es llevado hacia el límite en sus habilidades. A lo largo de tu carrera, ¿cuál es el personaje que te ha llevado a tus límites como actor?
I think this one. This was, as what we were just talking about, the most challenging emotional parts of the film. The physically challenging elements we've discussed led into it being even more emotional because of the lack of food and what that does to your brain chemistry and the sort of mood swings and so on. And it was probably just as emotional for my wife to have to put up with my mood swings. So, I apologise to her. But and as Ron said, having to go to certain places or ask these questions and face these horrific situations, as did these men in the film, or in the story, to do it justice, incredibly challenging. And then, even sort of coming home at the very end, trying to encapsulate what that would be like, not having seen your wife in 2 years, or not having ever met your daughter, and here she is, and so on. And there were many challenges, but one that I think we all welcomed them, and by the end of it, felt like we'd accomplished something. We sort of felt like we climbed a mountain by the end of it. So it was incredibly satisfying. Wonderful.
I just would add, if you don't mind, the movie was made very quickly, so the actors couldn't be coddled, they couldn't be comforted. In fact, they had to take responsibility for their characters in these scenes, and often physical things, in the sailing, real, actually tying ropes that mattered, and doing things that mattered out there. And so then when they have to do these kind of dramatic, raw scenes, that takes so much energy, and I knew that, I could see from their eyes that the energy was kind of gone, it was lost, and yet they were giving so much of themselves.
Perfecto. Y viene el señor Adrián Ruiz de Excelsior. Adrián.
Hola, buenas tardes. Felicidades por la película, y una de las frases finales que tiene la cinta es demostramos nuestra valentía y tuvimos que ir a lugares donde ningún ser humano antes había ido. Ustedes, como para Ron y para Chris, ¿en qué momento de su carrera, en alguna película en específico, han tenido que demostrar alguna valentía que nadie más haya tenido que demostrar? ¿Se han tenido que esforzar y sacar la casta en algún momento de sus carreras en específico?
Well, I think, it happens in some way almost every film, because you're always confronting the unknown, which is, how do you get this story to be everything it's supposed to be, so that when you offer it to the audiences, it's fulfilled its potential. But I think for me, Apollo 13 was that, because there were so many elements involved, and when we took the risk to actually shoot the movie in weightlessness, there were some physical challenges there, and the studio was very worried about it, and I had to sort of put myself and my word online and say, this is worth spending our energy on, and it's going to make the film special, and it's worth investing in. And I was very grateful when it worked out. I always think that Apollo 13 is sort of a cousin to In the Heart of the Sea, in a way, because it is a story about going out there, facing a crisis, and then trying to get home. But I am so grateful. I think this is the most complicated movie I've ever made. And I'm grateful for all of the experiences that I had before In the Heart of the Sea, because I don't think I could have prepared the movie properly and faced the challenges with as much confidence as I was able to. Not that I was always confident, because you never know.
And Chris?
Yeah, probably similar to what Ron was saying, and I feel like I have the same sort of anxiety or nervousness stepping into any role, any performance, to do it justice or live out expectations and so on for myself, but also, I mean, particularly with Thor, that being such a beloved character and had a history of 50, 60 years of comic books and a fan base that knew far more about material than I would ever know or understand. And so that was, and it was also my introduction to this industry, I guess, was the first big thing I was a part of. But yeah, as I said, each film you go on, I still feel that same expectation and same challenges and same need to kind of step up and work just as hard as you did before.
Guys, I want to end this press conference with a famous quote of Herman Melville that said, it's better to fail being an original than to have success imitating something. You guys are a bunch of originals. Thank you very much for being with us. Acompáñenme a despedir con un fuerte aplauso a nuestros invitados de esta tarde. Have a great time in Mexico City. Gracias compañeros por acompañarnos esta tarde.